What's going on, y'all? Today we're going to make deer jerky, and it's always awesome. Alright, now we're going to start out with a hindquarter of the deer. I've already trimmed most of the fat and a lot of the silver skin off to expose the muscle groups. Now our goal here is not to separate each muscle group into its own individual cut of meat, but simply we're just going to debone the hindquarter. So what you want to do is find your first seam and just take your knife and just begin to feel your way separating the seams of the meat. You kind of feel your way as you go and see new seams. I'm going to run my knife up this bone. Just go follow the bone. Alright, so I have deboned the hindquarter. It's not pretty, but like I said, making jerky, we don't have to make it pretty. I've got a little bit of the shank left. Now these scraps, because not everything can be sliced up for jerky, will be great for grinding. Put that in the ground pile. We'll trim this bone a little bit better. Get our shank. Our shank is good for grinding. So we have 3 large pieces of meat. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to trim these and make these more manageable. Alright, we have our cut up meat that I have trimmed and allowed to chill in the fridge overnight. Now we're going to slice it. Alright, now we've got our meat slicer set up. We're going to turn it on and begin slicing our meat. Now, I like my meat sliced rather thin. The thicker you slice it, the longer it's going to take to fully dehydrate it. And this is roughly going to take 10 to 11 hours being this thin. So if you get and cut it, any thicker than this, you could be looking at anywhere from 15 to 18 hours worth of dehydration to get it where you need it. One thing you also need to make sure you do when you're cutting jerky is that you go across the grain of the meat. Now, as you can see right here, the grain is going this way. I'm cutting it across the grain. And the reason for this is that when you're done with your jerky, it won't be so stringy, it won't get caught in your teeth as much. It just makes an overall better texture for your jerky if you cut against the grain instead of with it. Alright, we got our meat all sliced up, and as you can see, we got a good amount. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put, or try to put, in between 4.5 pounds to 5 pounds of meat in a gallon Ziploc bag, and then we're going to add our marinade. Now, I have a food scale to let me know when I get close to 5 pounds or hit 5 pounds. Alright, we're just going to take our meat, our gallon bag, and just grab it by the handful. Alright, let's see where we're at. Almost 3 pounds. Let's add more. Check it again. 4 pounds. Let's add a few more ounces. Alright. As you can see, we are 5 pounds on the dot, and that's what the marinade calls for. 1 packet of marinade can marinate 5 pounds of meat. Now, I've already poured my seasoning into a mixing bowl. I know a lot of people make their own seasoning, but I like the LEM original, so does my wife, because it's not too spicy. Now I'm going to make the rest of my meat. I'm going to use the Cajun seasoning and make it a little bit spicy. Now inside this pack of marinade is also a packet of curing salt, and I use the entire packet. Now this also calls for 2.5 cups of water. Now we're going to add our water. That's 2 cups. We need another half cup. Now, after mixing your water in with your seasoning, you need to give it a good stir. Make sure you mix all of your seasoning up and get the clumps out. Now, I recommend doing this in your sink because there's a potential of making a big mess, but you got to carefully pour your seasoning in. Make sure it all gets in there. There might be a little bit left in the bottom. Let's add a little more water. Make sure we get all our seasoning. Alright, after you pour in your seasoning, seal your bag. Try to get as much air out of it as possible. Give it a good mix. And I recommend a good sturdy gallon freezer bag for this that you trust, because if you're not careful while you're mixing it, it could all dump out on you. I've had that happen before, but Ziploc makes a pretty good bag. Alright, now it's mixed up and it's ready to go in the refrigerator for 8 hours. Alright. Well, it's been actually about 24 hours instead of 8. Things came up, but there's nothing wrong with letting it go 24 hours to marinate. It just soaks up that much more marinade. Now we're ready to put our meat on our trays. Let's see what you want to do. Spread it out, and you don't want the pieces to touch. Alright, so there's our tray. Notice how we try to space everything out so the pieces don't get stuck together. Alright, now we just got 5 more of these trays to do, and then we'll be ready to start our dehydration process. Alright, we got all our trays filled. Now we've got the dehydrator set at 155 degrees Fahrenheit. Flip it on, and we will see you in roughly 10 to 11 hours. Alright, we got the first batch done. We got the second batch on and drying. Let's go and give it a try. There's really no words needed. If you had deer jerky before, you know it's always awesome. This is no exception. Remember, if you like the content, hit that like button. And if you haven't already, go on and subscribe. It helps the channel grow. Thank you.